Hello everyone, I am Dr. Shruti Srivastav, Assistant Professor English in Government College Kharghoda. This video lecture is for BA final year students of English Literature. The topic is Nobel Prize Acceptance Speech by William Faulkner. I would like to give a short introduction to the writer. William Faulkner was an American novelist and short story writer who was awarded Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1949. Faulkner was born on September 25, 1897 in New Albany, Mississippi, US. He belonged to the southern middle class family and was well aware of his family background, especially of his great-grandfather who fought gallantly during the American Civil War, which lasted from 1861 to 1865. He grew up in Oxford, where he experienced an open-air upbringing, having been engaged in various activities like hunting, gun shooting, horse riding, etc. He left high school without graduating, but devoted himself to self-studies under the supervision of a family friend named Phil Stone. He joined the Canadian and later on the British Royal Air Force during the First World War. He also enrolled himself for a short time for a few courses in the University of Mississippi. He temporarily worked for a New York bookstore and a New Orleans newspaper. Except for some short tours to Europe and Asia, he remained in Oxford to work on his novels and short stories. He also wrote some screenplays and poems. Faulkner died on July 6, 1962 in Bahia, Mississippi. In the beginning, Faulkner tried hard to prove himself as a professional writer, and he also faced certain difficulties in the publication of his earlier novels. With the publication of Sartres in 1929, Faulkner found his own themes and setting to represent the historical growth and subsequent decadence of the South. It is the first novel in his long, loosely constructed Yoknapatawpha saga, whose themes include the decline of the Sartres and Compson families and the emergence of the ruthless and brash newcomers who are the Synopsises. Now this word Yoknapatawpha is made up of two words, Yokona and Patawpha, which means split land. Faulkner himself said once that the compound means water flows slow through flat land. Now it is an imaginary setting given by Faulkner in his novels. Some of the other notable works of Faulkner are The Sound and the Fury, As I Lay Dying, Light in August, and Absalom, Absalom. He also published a trilogy, The Hamlet, The Town, and The Mansion. He got Pulitzer Prize for his novel The Reivers in 1962. Now in this slide, we would see Faulkner as a writer. I would like to tell you in short about the themes of his novels and the style which he applied in them. The inherent theme of his works was the degeneration of the times, presented through the mind of several characters. Faulkner made use of inner monologue to reveal the psychological relationships of man and woman, of blacks and whites. He variously talked about the Southern tradition, the family and community, the land, history and the past race, and the passions of ambition and love. He was known for his experimental style with meticulous attention to diction and melody. Faulkner is best known for his experiment with the stream of consciousness narrative style. Now, what is this stream of consciousness? This style is characterized by a use of language that expresses thought processes which is going on in one's mind, and it is presented not in conventional grammatical structure but in more organic and creative modes. This narrative method describes the happenings in the flow of thoughts in the minds of the characters at a given moment, at a given particular moment. This style brands him, though, with James Joyce, with an unjust reputation of a difficult writer. But we can say he is a writer whom we enjoyed a lot. Faulkner was a man of high ideals and surprising optimism, and his stories are often very funny in a bleak sort of way. Now here I would like to give a short insight on the speech. Faulkner was awarded the 1949 Nobel Prize for Literature for his powerful and artistically unique contribution to the modern American novel. It was awarded at the following year's banquet along with the 1950 prize to Bertrand Russell. The speech which he gave on the occasion became famous as the banquet speech, and it was titled as The Writer's Duty. This post-World War II speech targets young writers and persuades them to understand the real purpose and significance of good literature. Faulkner argued that the fear of global destruction had distracted writers from this real purpose of literature, which is to understand the problems of the human heart. Faulkner specifically chooses stylistic elements to appeal and inspire the audience. Now here is the text of the speech. William Faulkner's speech at the Nobel banquet at the City Hall in Stockholm, December 10, 1950. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel that this award was not made to me as a man, but to my work, a life's work in the agony and sweat of the human spirit, not for glory and least of all for profit, but to create out of the materials of the human spirit something which did not exist before. So this award is only mine in trust. It will not be difficult to find a dedication for the money part of it, commensurate with the purpose and significance of its origin. But I would like to do the same with the acclaim too, by using this moment as a pinnacle from which I might be listened to by the young men and women already dedicated to the same anguish and travail, among whom is already that one who will some day stand here where I am standing. Faulkner begins his speech by introducing his topic, that is writing, and telling his audience how the process of writing takes lots of effort to create something new. And also he later refers to writing as anguish and travail. In the very first sentence, he humbly directed the award away from himself when he says, "This award is not made to me as a man, but to my work." And what that work is? It is to create things based on and to better understand the human spirit. Thus, he connected himself with the audience right away, as they feel that he is saying whatever he is saying is related to their life and is in their best interest. Though Faulkner detested the fame and glory that resulted from his recognition, but he believes that he truly deserves the award, for he dedicated his life to serve the purpose of writing. He says that he would like to utilize this precious moment in sharing the praise with the young writers with the same dedication towards good literature. The writers who go through great anxiety and by their laborious effort they bring out the best literature which will make them famous like Faulkner himself, and they will someday definitely stand there to receive the award as Faulkner is receiving now. Faulkner proceeds by saying, "Our tragedy today is a general and universal physical fear, so long sustained by now that we can even bear it. There are no longer problems of the spirit. There is only the question, when will I be blown up? Because of this, the young man or woman writing today has forgotten the problems of the human heart in conflict with itself, which alone can make good writing, because only that is worth writing about, worth the agony and the sweat." Now we see that this paragraph begins with the shortcomings of the present writers, who are just giving voice to the general and universal fear of being blown up. Now this phrase blown up could be seen in the context of post-World War II, when the Cold War between United States and the former USSR had begun. People were afraid of the atomic bombs made by the superpowers, which had the potential to blow up the entire world and wipe out the human race. The fear of being annihilated is so great that writers had forgotten to talk about the problems of the human heart in conflict with itself, and which, according to Faulkner, is all worth writing about. It is the worth to do hard work for. Now, the threats of this atomic age have precipitated the age of anxiety. Now, what is this age of anxiety? Now, Alan Watts, he calls the present age as an age of anxiety. He argues that the root of our human frustration and daily anxiety is our tendency to live for the future, which is an abstraction. Now, today, what are your dreams? You want to get a good job. Then you want a big car. After that, you crave for a bungalow. And after that, maybe you want to have your own jet plane. So desires are endless, and human beings, they always live in future, which is not good for their productivity. It is making them frustrated. So Faulkner reflects on how creatively toxic it is to write from a place of fear rather than a place of hope for the human heart. The writers were distracted by these fears to write about true human conditions, and thus creates a hindrance in the path of good and honest literature. And Faulkner believes that true literature is only in the pursuit of understanding the problems of the human spirit. Faulkner proceeds. He must learn them again. He must teach himself that the basis of all things is to be afraid, and teaching himself that, forget it forever, leaving no room in his workshop for anything but the old verities and truths of the heart, the old universal truths, lacking which any story is ephemeral and doomed. Love and honor and pity and pride and compassion and sacrifice. Until he does so, he labors under a curse. He writes not of love but of lust, of defeats in which nobody loses anything of value, of victories without hope, and worst of all, without pity or compassion. His griefs grieve on no universal bones, leaving no scars. He writes not of the heart, but of the glands. Now, here, Faulkner advises the young writers to forget the fear forever, as it is the worst of all things. Without being afraid, the writers must give voice to the universal truths of the human heart. That only matters for a good literature. He must learn them again. Now, what are these universal or eternal truths? They are love, honor, pity, pride, compassion, and sacrifice. The real, genuine passions and emotions of human beings, without which any story would be worthless and short lasting. Faulkner says that the writer is just wasting energy if he is not relating the feelings of human beings. Faulkner goes on to tell the writers that every story, whether it be of victory or defeat, of love or grief, will certainly be doomed to fail if it does not incorporate the intense feelings of human heart. And therefore such stories that are told without pity or compassion leaves no mark on the mind and heart of its readers. They are just the description of dull realities of life. The last two stanzas of the speech boldly declares the indomitable spirit and fearlessness of human heart. Faulkner says, until he relearns these things, he will write as though he stood among and watched the end of man. I decline to accept the end of man. It is easy enough to say that man is immortal simply because he will endure. That when the last ding-dong of doom has clanged and faded from the last worthless rock hanging tideless in the last red and dying evening, that even then there will still be one more sound, that of his puny, inexhaustible voice, still talking. In this paragraph, Faulkner warns the young writers that if they don't learn to write about the universal truths which he has discussed in the third paragraph, they will only end up in describing the present gloomy scenario which is on the verge of nuclear annihilation and which has the power to wipe out the entire human race. The making of the nuclear weapons is just like the sound of a ringing bell that hints at the final destruction, for it has the power to turn the entire world into ashes. Now, The figurative imagery is used in the lines, when the last ding-dong of doom has clanged and faded from the last worthless rock. Now here, ding-dong of doom, in these words we see the use of alliteration also. Now Faulkner, he powerfully says that he will not accept the end of man, because man has the ability to endure and sustain even in the worst of the situations, because he is blessed with the inexhaustible hope fluttering in his heart. Faulkner continues, I refuse to accept this. I believe that man will not merely endure, he will prevail. He is immortal, not because he alone among creatures has an inexhaustible voice, but because he has a soul, a spirit, capable of compassion and sacrifice and endurance. The poet's, the writer's duty is to write about these things. It is his privilege to help man endure by lifting his heart, by reminding him of the courage and honor and hope and pride and compassion and pity and sacrifice, which have been the glory of his past. The poet's voice need not merely be the record of man. It can be one of the props, the pillars, to help him endure and prevail. Now, in this last paragraph, Faulkner forcefully repeats his ideas on good writing and that it will have an indelible impact on the minds of the audience. He firmly believes that man will not only endure, but he will prevail. Now, what is the difference between endure and prevail? Faulkner himself once said, by enduring he means lasting over a period of time, and by prevailing he means existing at a particular time. So he firmly believes that the human race has lasted over a vast period of time, and the human beings have the capability to change the present times at the particular moment. He believes that man is, Faulkner here says that man is immortal, not because he has an inexhaustible, untiring voice, but because he has a soul with such grand feelings like pity, honor, hope, courage, sacrifice, and forbearance. Now, the choice of such powerful words evokes strong emotions and memories in the readers. Faulkner asserts that it is the duty of the writers to encourage and inspire the feelings in man and remind him that these qualities of his character have helped him to sustain in his past and will keep them going in the present times. Faulkner concludes his speech by giving a valuable advice to the young poets and writers that they just need not give the details of the events which are taking place, because that would simply be the record of history. But what they have to do? They have to provide the measures and remedies to mankind that will help them survive and sustain the present times. And in the last line, he says that poet's voice can be one of the props. Now, props here means a person or a thing that gives support. And he says that it will give support to human beings to endure and prevail. Now, it is the writer's duty to lift the heart of the readers. That means here he wanted to say sometimes literature helps to heal its readers. Now, sometimes the literature, or we can say any art, say painting or music, it has the ability to heal the pensive hearts of the readers or listeners. So here it is the duty of the writers to provide that support to the humankind and make them bold enough to face the challenges of the present times. Now, at the end, we can say that Faulkner conveyed the message of the important role that literature plays in supporting the human race. And he has done it through a wide variety of well-placed strategies, and he flawlessly sticks to a central topic and tone throughout the speech. He ends on an optimistic note that the humanity will survive and prosper. Faulkner refuses to accept that human beings are dominated or controlled by their environment. Here he is one with T.S. Eliot, whose Wasteland, though presents the decay and degeneration of the modern times, yet it ends on a note of hope and courage. Both of them are one in argument that man controls his own destiny. Faulkner uses different types of figurative language to make an appeal to his audience's emotions and ethics. No doubt, the speech has inspired many writers and it continues to inspire many more. Now here it is some of the important questions which have already been dealt with during the explanation. These sites and the book has been referred to for the lecture. Thank you so much.